I'm going to the starting soon screen. Let that go for a little bit, so you're not gonna be able to hear me.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sibling Sleuths. So, how are you, John and Christy?
Doing pretty good. Hey, you're still frozen on my screen.
Same.
Okay. Let's see here. I don't know because it's not showing up. It's frozen on mine.
Okay.
And it's not showing. It's frozen on YouTube.
Okay.
I was gonna say on YouTube you're moving fine.
So I'm not quite sure what's happening. But can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear
you. Am I frozen on YouTube?
Don't move around a bit.
I think I am.
No, you're not.
Oh, there it is now.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit behind. Never
I'm sorry.
mind.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a
delay.
Noise.
Fan.
You might want to turn it off because it's really loud.
Yeah, like for reals.
Okay. So, well, I'm glad you guys are doing well. I apologize, chat, in our audience that might watch this on the pod for not having a episode past few weeks, but we've been dealing with sickness
and storms.
Yeah. So, but we're ready. We're glad to be back, and yeah. So I'm doing good. John has something before we start, but I want to say if anyone's interested, the Harmony Montgomery case, it concluded today with the jury coming back of guilty. So, yeah.
Now, which one does that refresh my memory, Susan, please?
Okay, hold on. One, my volume is down. Okay, that's odd. Because usually it's... Okay, Harmony Montgomery. She, her father killed her, and then like hid her body, and like they didn't find
Yeah, I
it.
remember now. Okay, thank
So
you.
Okay.
yeah. Okay, let me check my audio settings. And go ahead, John, with what you were gonna do while I'm working on this.
We were going to do it last week. Last week is the 7-year anniversary of Libby and Abby missing. So we're just going to take a few moments of silence to honor the girls. And for those of you who do not know about Libby and Abby, it's the Delphi murders, which we're going to be covering, but I'm letting some of the stuff settle down because that we could spend weeks and weeks discussing that case.
It's crazy.
Every day it's something new.
It's been crazy from the jump, hasn't it?
Yes. Are you there, Susan?
I'm here. Is my
Okay.
mic any better?
I can hear you better.
Okay. We're gonna keep my mic really close because I don't know. It might be because when I'm streaming on Twitch, I have it down because it's too high, or not. Or I don't know. Irregardless, it is what it is, and I have it up. Hold on. Let me just do one more thing. No. Okay. I don't know. I guess I will just have to talk loud. Okay, so it's better. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate you, Cleveland Fan 1990. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the case today. So, on March 27th of 2011 in Findlay, Ohio, a train conductor at about around 2 a.m. noticed something on the tracks. And at first, he thought it was a deer, but then was horrified to discover it was the body of a young girl. An autopsy showed blunt force trauma to her torso, head, and legs, but it was not caused by being run over by a train. Now, this young lady was identified as Vera Jo Regal. But how did she end up on the tracks? Well, before we can determine that, we first need to go back and learn about somebody else by the name of Sherry Brooks, also known as Sugar Babe. Okay? Where did everybody go? Well, then. Okay. Show on stream. Are you there?
Yep, we're here.
Is John here?
He's here. I can see him and hear him.
Okay. You guys disappeared off of the.
Yeah, I see on YouTube. We both look blanked out, but we're still here.
Okay. Okay, so you guys can also fill in while I'm, talking about Sherry Brooks. We've all done some research, but Sherry Brooks, her father nicknamed her Sugar Babe at 3 years old. However, her father also sexually abused Sherry Brooks and physically abused her up until
For
that
a
time.
very long time. If the research is right, he like from the jump was very physically, mentally, sexually abusive to her.
Yes, she was actually put into foster care at 3 years old. But and then she also ended up at a facility in Indiana. But at 16, she returned to her parents' home, where her father continued to abuse her.
And that's something I still do. I have questions about. She just kept going right back, and I know it's part of the victim mentality, and it's with Stockholm syndrome, basically. I think it's what it is. She doesn't know any better, doesn't know anything else. She just goes right back to the abuser.
Right. And that's
And what I don't understand is why did they let her go back at 16?
well, without going
Is
into
she?
because honestly, I mean, this is just speculation on my part due to experiences in my life. Not that I was in foster care, but um, because CYS or DC, whatever the agency is for children and youth, they have so many cases on their hand and not enough places to put them.
Yeah.
By the time they reach that age, they figure they could take care of themselves. So we'll just go ahead and let them come back. That's just my theory. I don't know.
Yeah.
But from my experience, it doesn't matter.
See, and that's the thing, though, that there's still so much that science has come out about, development of the human brain and, what age it really starts to function as an adult brain. It's like in the 20s, and they didn't know that back then. But 16 is so young to age someone out of that kind of system because, I mean, I get that they're overworked, underpaid public servants, basically, but holy cow. I mean, they don't, it seems like everybody in this whole case was failed. And I hate, it makes me angry to a point that I feel like I'm kind of trying to think of what I'm saying. Like, be on a little bit on the side of Sugar Babe, but and I didn't like calling her that because the whole thing just messes with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know her. I read about her history. I get that she's a victim too. It makes me physically ill because the whole thing is, I mean, from the jump, this whole situation is just messed up. And there goes John.
It's doing it again where it's just kicking the video.
You're still on YouTube, but not with us. So I can hear you.
Is this chick was so sick that she actually had sexual relations with her cousin.
Yeah, well,
I believe her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I jumping the gun?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just a little
sorry.
bit. We're almost there. Oh boy.
But when she did come back to her parents, when she was 16, and she told her mother. I mean, and this kind of just shows the delusion and the kind of fantasy world that Sherry Brooks was in. She told her mom that she had a baby while she had been in foster care, and that the baby was in foster care. Well, Sherry's mom wanted the baby, which she wasn't that great of a mother either. But
Obviously.
Sherry's mom investigated, and the social worker told her that it was a complete lie.
I was going to say, I don't remember her having a baby, but
Yeah.
we're talking about, we got to look at what we're talking about. Oh yeah, I had a baby, whatever, dude.
Yeah, but she was really, really insistent, with her mother that, she had this baby in foster care and she didn't. So, yeah. And then, after that, Sherry went ahead and got into a relationship with her cousin.
Wasn't her first cousin too? I mean,
I believe so. Yes.
Yes, first
Holy
cousin.
cow.
Yeah. And she did have her first baby with him.
Good Lord.
But however, that baby was removed due to allegations of sexual abuse.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Brings an all new meaning to the word kissing cousins.
Stop that. It's gross. Ew.
So after that, Sherry then did meet another man named Mike Maloney. And she had another son. And CYS stepped in, and they did not take the baby, but they were overseeing, the family. So they were visiting, and they had her set up with WIC, which, if no one knows what WIC is, it's a program for women and infants and children, and they get, checks so they can go buy food and milk. So, the baby has food and milk. And Sherry wouldn't go to the appointments. So if you don't go to the appointments, then you don't get checks and you get pulled from the program. So they didn't have the baby milk, so they started feeding the baby regular milk, which caused colic. So if you know anything about colicky babies, yeah, they're very, very fussy. They
Yep.
cry a lot. And Mike Maloney ended up hitting the baby because he was so frustrated. So that baby got removed. And then she had another baby. And that one was taken to abuse as well. Which, after that, and this is what frustrates me, and I've seen other cases, I've seen people in. How many kids do you have to abuse before you say, okay, any other kids you have, you don't get?
Amen. I mean, would she have 4 sons taken away? I mean, come on.
Well,
Get-
yeah, but then the kicker is, so after that one got taken away, she ended up having a baby girl. Now this baby girl, she loved this baby. It was her first girl. She dressed her up, and it was around this kid the whole time. Like, she would not leave this baby's side. Well, an incident happened where she was bleeding from her vagina. And
Was it the baby or it was the baby, right?
the baby.
Oh,
And
good Lord.
it was discovered that she had been abused. They never found out who abused the child, but it was either the mother or father. And most people think it was Sherry, just due to the fact that she never left the baby.
Didn't she even sleep with the baby?
Yeah. So, yeah. So after that one was removed, she had another baby girl. And it was removed as well. So she was still with Mike. Well, she ended up getting pregnant again, but this time it wasn't his baby. It was somebody else's baby. And this man was named Kevin Brooks. So she went ahead and divorced Mike, and she married Kevin Brooks. Now, I don't know enough about Kevin Brooks, but apparently he must either CYS got tired of her, or he wasn't maybe as bad as Mike Maloney was. I don't know. But for some reason, she was able to keep this kid, and she ended up having 3 other boys that she got to keep. I have no idea why, but she did. I don't know why. It kind of bothers me. Now, all of the boys were hooligans, and that's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
The first one they named Kevin, but his nickname was Punky Brooks, and he ended up dying in a car crash when he was 19. He was walking along the road with his girlfriend, and a car hit him, and he died. And
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I know she was already messed up. That obviously had to really mess her up more, because I mean, he was her oldest, wasn't he?
She had the girlfriend beat up because she thought that she got this person in the car to run him over because she didn't like his girlfriend.
God.
So yeah. So do you guys have any other information about Sherry Brooks that you'd like to conclude? Because I shared a lot of information, but there is a lot of information. So.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I have a question now.
Now, she was actually scared of Punky.
Yeah, she was.
For good reason.
He was very violent, but she still loved him. But if you think about it,
and supposedly he was a member of the Crips too.
Yes, he was. But if you think about it, it doesn't matter if you're scared. If you've been in all these abusive relationships, that's what you know. It's familiar. So yeah, she was scared of him, but it's what she knew.
It's like the old saying, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know.
Yeah.
But she never even tried to go another way. She just followed up. She knew a path from the get-go, and she just followed that path, and it was just ugh.
Yeah.
And that's as far as I'm going to go until we get into more, because this case is played on me, seriously.
Yeah. And I mean, at the memorial that they had at their house for Punky, you know, she actually saw the girlfriends, and she turned to a relative and said, I need you to do me a favor and I want you to beat Heather.
Yeah.
And they did. So for some reason, Sherry seemed to wear the pants in the family. I mean, they were known as like a Manson family type family in Findlay, Ohio.
Yeah, they
People,
were very. Everyone called them cultish, which is that. Wow.
hence why they were like the Manson family of Findlay, I guess. Uh, Sherry was dealing drugs. She was a bully. She was a manipulator, and a pathological liar.
And every one of them boys came right back to her. As soon as they
Yep.
get taken away, as soon as they aged out of the system, they went right back to their mother.
Yeah,
Why does it keep doing that?
yeah. I don't know, and it's not letting me bring you.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Manson because she actually stayed in the facility in Indianapolis or in
Terre Haute?
Indiana.
Mhm.
Yeah, Terre Haute, Indiana. It's called Gibault School for Boys.
Mhm.
She actually stayed there, and that's where Marilyn Manson. I don't know if they were. I don't think they were there at the same
Charles
time.
Manson, not Marilyn.
Yeah, Charles Manson. Ah, but that was the same school that he was at. But they weren't there at the same time. But it's the same school.
No, he was there in like the 30s and 40s, and she was there, what, 50s and 60s probably?
Yeah.
But yeah,
But-
so we have this manipulator. She was obsessed with babies, especially girls. And honestly, the reason why she resented Funky's boyfriend is because they had a baby together, but the baby was a boy. And she wanted a girl.
One girl.
Yeah, so
She either want daughters or granddaughters. That's so messed up. Oh my goodness.
yeah. So, and one thing to note, which we'll have to remember later on in the story, is that she did have Punky cremated. And, sometimes people will bury the ashes or they'll spread the ashes. She instead placed a bag of ash on a shelf in her living room. And she added one of his t-shirts, some of his Crip paraphernalia, and even had a spot where she could leave him his favorite candy bars. Now, I don't know if he just liked candy bars and she thought he would actually get the candy bars. I have no idea. But that's what she did. It was, I guess, her way of grieving. But, yeah.
Yeah, everybody grieves different, but man.
But it just shows how sick this woman was.
But yeah, she was very... She obviously was very pathological. I mean, people even referred to her as Charles Manson, except some said she was even more dangerous, which,
Yeah.
I mean, so, she had her boys, but Sherry wanted another baby girl. She's been obsessed with girls, so she began to try to get her boys, to get some girls pregnant. So her one son, Garth, who was dating a 15-year-old, she was trying to convince him to get her pregnant. And her name was Gina. And she did eventually go ahead and get pregnant. And Sherry welcomed her into the house with open arms. But Gina soon learned that was not a good idea. And because Sherry was very controlling, she was not nice to Gina at all. And so Gina decided she was done. And so she decided to go ahead and leave.
Yeah.
But before she could, she miscarried. Sherry was so mad, Gina had to go move several states away to get away from her. And, she...
Because her and her family are crackers, man.
Yeah. So, Sherry didn't get this baby. So she moved on to another kid. You know, she had 4 boys. So she had plenty of baby makers in the house, I guess. And Zach, who was 13, was friends with a girl by the name of Vera Jo Regal.
And they actually live next door to each other.
Right, and Sherry actually knew who Vera was because she knew her as a baby.
Didn't she
Right.
know her mother as well?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So
She would go over. She would actually go over and help the mom take care of Vera Jo,
yeah,
like it was her own kid.
and I think it got so bad that didn't the mom say, "Okay, that's enough. This is my kid."
Yes, she did. She told her, "You
Yeah.
need to get on," because she was becoming obsessed with Vera Jo.
Yeah, because there was something about girls that Sherry was just obsessed with girls, and so she knew her. So her son befriended her, and but Vera had some problems. She was developmentally delayed. She had the mind of an 8-year-old, I believe.
Yes, 8 to 12-year-old, I believe, what it said in
Yeah.
the.
And, but she's really sad. But she was a very sweet girl. Um, but her family wasn't the best either. When she was 11, she was sexually assaulted by her father.
I was just about to say that
So-
there was sexual assault in her history as well.
Yeah, and that to me, it just breaks my heart.
I feel like Vera Jo was, as soon as she came into the world, she was a victim. And it just, I mean, this poor girl did not stand a chance.
She
No.
didn't.
Not with her own family, and then she got roped into Sherry and her brood, and it just, and just thinking about that girl, it breaks my heart into a million pieces.
Yeah, and
I mean,
Sherry took advantage of that.
Totally.
Yep.
I mean, she encouraged Zach to have a relationship with Vera, who she knew Vera was intellectually disabled. And she was 19, and Zach, I think, was only, when they became friends, he was only 13.
Right.
They started,
Which is statutory rape in Ohio.
Yep.
and they started dating, supposedly, when he was 15. But still, like, some of the research I looked at, they said, Vera took advantage of Zach because he was so much younger, even though she didn't realize it. I don't see it that way.
I don't either.
You know?
Because she was developmental delay. She had all these, she had mental and psychological problems. She was not developed enough mentally to understand the whole situation.
Yeah.
And people that want to
Oh, go ahead.
people that want to blame her, I don't think they know the whole picture. And, just do some research, look for the documentary Goodnight Sugar Babe. I mean, it's on the internet. It's just, she was a victim from the jump.
Yeah.
And
And Sherry, welcomed, just like she had done with with Gina, I think that was her name. She welcomed Vera into her home, and she even somehow managed to become payee of her Social Security check. Or disability check, whatever. I get this confused. But, yeah, she received Social Security disability checks. And Sherry became her payee. So Sherry had control of her
Yeah.
finances. And, yeah. So,
And I just looked it up. The legal age of consent in Ohio is 16.
okay.
but still, it's like you said, though. It was statutory rape because that boy was a kid and Vera Jo mentally was a kid. I mean, there's...
I mean, it was all manipulated by
by
I'll
Sherry.
be
Sherry.
I'll be right back.
Okay. And, yeah, so Vera moved in with her, and because of her trauma, because of her sweet spirit that she had for life, she just wanted to please people. She was a people pleaser.
and she wanted someone she could trust, and that she I think she wanted love too, because I don't think she felt it in her family, obviously.
Right. I
And I
mean,
mean, because didn't she run away? I mean, she was like 11 or 12 to because of all the trauma in her own house, and
yeah.
then that's how Sherry found her, and she's come on in, we'll help you. Ugh.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, she was 19. And when you're 19, even if you're intellectually disabled, you still have all those hormones, emotions, all of that stuff. And she, in
Your
her
body's
head,
going crazy, and it messes with your head, and
I'm
you just
19, I'm an adult. She may not be acting like an adult, but, and what are you going to do? She's legally an adult, and,
yep.
so she's able to make her own. And if she'd had good parents, none of this would have happened.
Oh no,
Because they
I agree.
could have taken custody of her because of her disability and said, okay, we are in charge of her. And, I don't remember all the legal stuff, but they could have done
All the research,
something.
yeah, all the research I've done, the only thing I could think of, I just kept screaming, "Where's her mom? Where's her mother?" My mom would have like lost her mind. She would have been like, "You get back here!"
Well, and they moved away, I believe.
Yeah, they did.
So, I mean, and I'm assuming, Vera didn't want to leave. And so here's Sherry, you know. So, I mean, Sherry went over there and she ended up doing everything around there. She was cleaning the house. I think, and she was taking care of Sherry.
They turned her into a slave.
Right. And Sherry had medical problems. She was, overweight. She had diabetes. She had some medical issues surrounding her feet. And
Yeah, and she had Vera Jo was rubbing her feet and stuff, and all I could think of when I heard that is, "You," because I don't like touching feet.
yeah.
And just the, I mean, just the,
And like, but if Vera did something wrong, then Sherry would hit her with a stick while she was rubbing her feet.
yeah. And I mean, it was just bad. I'm gonna step away. I'll be right back.
Okay. So while Vera was in that home, Sherry began to slowly cut off all outside influences. They She didn't have a cell phone anymore. She couldn't go visit any of her family. Sherry was manipulating um Vera's mom, saying, "Oh, Sherry doesn't want to talk to you anymore." And they pretty much sheltered her inside of that house because they were using her. They were using her money. They were using her physically to do all this work around the house. And yeah. So, you know, Sherry was really encouraging Zach to have a relationship with Vera because she wanted a baby. Now, Zach had his own cognitive issues. And he also, along with a lot of people, was manipulated by Sherry Brooks. And she finagled them to have a relationship, and Vera soon became pregnant. And Sherry was ecstatic. She was acting like it was her baby. So she was picking out clothes and furniture. And Sherry even decided what the name was going to be for the baby. Vera didn't have any choice in the matter. Vera didn't get to pick anything out. Now, I know if that was me, I'd be like, listen, this is my child. You are the grandma, I am the mom. But Vera, because of her cognitive disability, was unable to do that. So Sherry just became more possessive of the baby and probably more mean to Vera. I can imagine, and I don't know, that Vera may have tried to stand up to herself for herself and her baby. You get those mother instincts, and I can imagine if she tried, that Sherry just shut her down. And by that point, you know, Vera was getting beat and was too scared to do anything about it, which is really, really sad. So, and I mean, she didn't even get to pick the baby's name. Like, Sherry picked the name Willa Dean. And, yeah, Vera didn't get to pick the name. So, the baby was due in December. And in September of that year, she told Zach he needed to give up his parental rights to the baby and sign the baby over to her. So I don't know if she did that with Vera, but she definitely did that with Zach. And he totally agreed because, it was his mom. He was only 15 at the time anyway. And honestly, at a 15-year-old, does a 15-year-old really want a baby? He's a boy. Yeah, I highly doubt it. Then October rolls around. The baby was due in December, but Sherry had this great idea that Willa Dean should be born on her birthday, which was November 3rd. Now keep in mind, the baby wasn't due until December. And so what Sherry did is she got some castor oil. And castor oil has been known to induce labor. And apparently the dosage is typically about 4 tablespoons. And Sherry picked up 3 bottles, mixed them with orange juice, and told Vera to drink it all. I can't even imagine. Why would you want your baby born, any baby, to be born early? You want that baby to be in there as long as possible. I just can't imagine, why she would do that. And why would you risk it? But, yeah, Vera became sick, but she did go into labor. But did not end up being on her birthday like she planned, but it was the next day. And they were 6 weeks early. And she had heart problems.
Susan,
Yeah?
can you hear Christy?
No.
Oh. Honey, unmute your mic. What happened? You there?
None of you are here.
I'm here.
You're not on video. Okay, there you are.
There I am.
She disappeared.
Yeah. She'll be back.
Okay, so while you were gone...
And there she is.
Okay, let me wait then. Get her back on here.
Unmute your mic on the cord.
Sometimes there's a button on the keyboard.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
I was muted. It was my fault. My bad.
So while you guys were gone, we were talking about Vera. By this point in the story, she's got pregnant. And as you all know, Sherry gave her castor oil because she wanted the baby to be born on her birthday. Did happen. She did go into labor, but the baby had heart problems because the baby was born 6 weeks early. As I was telling chat, I don't understand why you would do that. Why you would want a baby to be born just to be on your birthday.
That is the epitome of selfishness. I'm sorry, but it's just gross.
Yeah. So, while in the hospital, Sherry still was being her controlling self, and she told the nurses not to take the baby to Vera. She didn't even like the nurses to hold the baby. And when Vera did have the baby, she was Sherry was telling her what to do and what not to do. And, like, let's face it, like, Vera knows what to do with the baby. I mean, not Vera. Like, Sherry knows what to do with the baby. She's had how many kids taken away from her? Come on. But despite all of that, Vera tried so hard to be a good mother to that baby.
She loved that baby, and that's what people need to realize.
That baby. And, I can't imagine how hard it was for Vera. To be kind of caught in this, having the mind of a child, but yet here she has her own baby to raise, and she's trying so hard to take care of this baby because she loved her. That was her that was her baby. That was her flesh and blood.
Meanwhile, she's stuck with the Wicked Witch of the West and the flying monkeys.
Yeah. But, by this point, she's still being beaten by Vera. The Brooks family has pushed her away from everybody and secluded her, and she was never allowed to leave.
And she really wasn't allowed to raise her own child.
No, because Sherry wanted that baby for herself. I believe she slept with that baby too, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, red flag city, hello.
And if Vera tried to leave, all Sherry would do was threaten Wildean's life.
Yep.
And, I mean, if I was me, I'd stay because, that baby is her life, and, she wants to protect that baby.
Yeah.
Now, what really, really gets me is that house, they were living in squalor.
For real.
They didn't have running water. I don't even think they had a bathroom that worked.
No.
And they had pigs.
Yeah.
In the house.
In the house.
In the house. Yep.
What in the world?
Yeah. Why would you have
And
pigs in the house?
Vera Jo wasn't she sleeping with the pigs?
Yeah, I didn't see that, but it wouldn't surprise me any. Like, and what's even worse is there were calls put into family services.
Like, did one of their neighbors that called and said that you need to check this out? There were, hello.
I mean, and you probably could smell the house from
Like
the
a mile
outside.
away.
Can you imagine in the heat of summer what that house had to have smelled like?
Well, just remember when we stayed at Uncle Richard's house, he had pigs. Dude, you could smell it from the front of the yard.
Mm-hmm.
I could just imagine how it would be inside of a house.
I was going to say, I doubt your uncle had him in the house.
No, but
No,
still.
they were outside.
Yeah.
But you could smell it
Yeah.
from the front of the yard. And that's what I'm saying. Just imagine it being in your house.
Pig manure
in the
is an
heat of summer.
unmistakable odor. Once you smell it, you know what it is, and it's like, holy mother.
And I mean, let's face it, they probably didn't clean very well.
What are you laughing at? That's not funny.
I thought Susan was going to say something. Good thing she didn't.
Okay, but yeah.
About the doghouse.
Oh, well, yeah, you would know because you decided as a kid to go sleep in the doghouse over there.
I was trying to get the dog inside the doghouse. Okay.
Uh-huh. Anyway. So, people tried and like they would go over and question Vera about being abused but she just lied and told them everything was good. But with,
Probably
with
because she.
that baby there.
Because she was fearful of what was going to happen to her
Well, no,
kid.
and
I can understand that.
Well, no, I can totally understand that, but
I can
and I'm
too.
not mad at Vera. I'm mad at the people that went there to question her.
Right.
Everybody,
Why didn't
the
they
system
do
also
anything?
failed her because the police were called several times. They'd come, and I mean, they didn't. It's like they didn't want to see when Vera Jo. They questioned Vera Jo, and as soon as they questioned her about like, how she was living or anything, or are these people treating you right? She would look at Sherry,
Yeah,
and Sherry would be like, you tell them what I want you to tell them. She didn't say it, but she probably looked at her and gave her a look that said, "Go ahead, try me."
yeah,
And Vera Jo was like,
Well,
"You
wasn't
good?"
she a meth dealer?
yes,
I
she
She
read.
was
was
a drug
drug.
dealer.
She was a drug
Yeah.
dealer.
So that probably like fear. If even if I do leave, she's a drug dealer. She can come find me.
Yeah,
But didn't she like threaten the baby more than she threatened Vera Jo if Vera Jo tried to
well, yeah.
leave?
If she
Oh
tried
yeah.
to leave, she'd say, "Well, I'll just kill that baby." I mean, and
And that right there should show you how much she really valued anybody. I mean, the only person I think Sherry valued was herself, and even that wasn't very
definitely.
much
Oh yeah.
because of the way she
Definitely.
lived, the way she carried herself. She was a drug dealer. She thought she was a thug. I mean, she thought
She
She was a manipulator.
I watched a
For sure.
I watched a court case, which I'm probably jumping ahead, but she was brought up on drug charges, and
Yeah.
she went to court and she looked horrible. I mean,
yeah, I saw
like
the video of her at court, and she was a hot
dirty,
mess.
dirty, and like I don't care that she's overweight. I'm overweight, but like she just looked. She's not taking care
She
of
looked
herself.
foul.
Yeah.
She looks.
I'm sorry. I'm going to court. I'm shaving this off. I'm wearing a nice dress shirt, dress pants. I'm looking like presentable.
Well, yeah. I mean, nowadays though, like I've seen people that go to court and they don't, but at least have clean clothes on. If you don't have something nice, wear clean
Yeah.
clothes.
My grandpa one time called somebody something, and every time I see Sherry on a video or anything, it's the only word I can think of: scalawag. It's
Yeah.
a southern slang for a runty farm animal. That's how she carried herself, like she was a farm animal.
Yeah. So, Vera was actually really in love with Zachary, but after
Which I don't know why.
well, I
Again,
mean,
you have to consider the fact that she was psychologically and mentally, she wasn't quite right because of
Yeah.
the deficiencies and everything. She just saw him as, wasn't he the father of the baby?
well, and he was the father of the baby.
Yeah.
And like, what girl? I mean, they want
She-
the father
she
in
thought-
this life.
She
Be a
thought baby
family.
daddy cared about her. None of them cared about her. I don't care what anybody would say. Nobody in that house cared about her. Because if they gave 2 cents about that girl, they'd got her away from them pigs. And I'm putting
Yeah.
Sherry with the pigs because she's a pig too, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I mean,
All of them. Slovenly farm animals.
She wanted that family that she never had. is what I
Exactly.
think.
I think too. She was looking for love. She was looking for acceptance. She was looking for what we all want is a family of people, a circle of people around us that will care and have compassion for us. And like I said, she just, from the jump, she did not have a chance because her blood family let her down. The system let her down. These deviant people let her down. Everybody let her down. The only human being on this earth that probably had any affection for her was that baby.
Right.
And, because mama. And, she at least had, Vera Jo had the presence of mind to realize that's my child and I love her. And she did what she did staying in that house to protect her daughter. And I get that. I've never had kids, but I could totally 100% say that if someone was threatening a child of mine, whether it be blood or whatever, I would do whatever I could to protect that child. I would take whatever I had to take to protect that child.
Yeah. And, by the time Willa Dean was 2, Sherry began to, not. She didn't seem to care as much about her. She was
She
one-
liked having babies.
she liked
I
having
think she liked
babies. Yeah,
because I think she looked at them like dolls,
yeah.
something that she could dress up and play with and everything.
And
And
if you think about it, maybe it had to do with the fact that of her babyhood. Because
Yep.
Sherry was sexually abused at the age of 3,
by her nasty father.
or yeah, and maybe even probably sooner than that. So maybe for her, she was kind of stuck in that time. I mean, I don't know. That's just
Well, that's why I said if you studied criminology, I mean, it's perfect.
yeah.
I can't remember what
It's a
theory.
cycle of abuse.
But it's basically your abuse. You're going to act out upon it when you get older.
But after after Willadine became 2 years old, Sherry wants another baby. So what does Vera do? She looks at her boys. She tells them, "Come on, want another baby." She's like manipulating and doing everything she can to get
Spinning that
Zach
web to control.
and Garth into getting another girl pregnant. But she didn't want Vera to be the mother. In fact, she didn't want Vera to be around at all. She was tired of Vera. And when that came about, she started to get beat more. They started to neglect her even more. They would only let her eat leftovers off plates. And sometimes they would starve her. And there was an incident. Remember I talked about how Sherry had a place on Punky's memorial, the memorial that she had for Punky.
Yeah.
She had a
Candy
place
bar.
to put the candy bar. Well, Vera hadn't eaten for 3 days, and she was hungry.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
And Sherry had put a Kit Kat bar at her little memorial for Punky, and Vera ate it.
And I can just imagine how she accepted that, didn't?
Yeah, and Gina apparently saw her, and she was trying to be Zach's girlfriend, and so Gina went and told Sherry, and Vera got beat.
They beat her black and blue for that, didn't they?
Yes, they did. She had bruises, and as you mentioned, she had to sleep with the pigs in the closets. And
There's a picture of her. This
I was
is
gonna say, who's-
Sherry.
I was going to say, who's doing that? Is that one of y'all? Because I don't know who's doing that. It's kind of flipping me out. But
what?
That's
Yeah,
me.
she-
That's Sherry right there.
yeah, she looks like a winner. As my grandma
Yeah.
would say. My mom and grandma both, she looks like a winner. But just,
See if I can find a picture.
So, while this is all going down, Sherry's cousin, who I believe, I don't know, I don't think it was the same cousin that she was.
I was going to say, is this the same cousin
No,
that
I
she,
don't-
kissing cousins?
I don't.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Blaze, for that image. I will not need like something, bleach or whatever in my head.
I don't believe it was, but I'm not sure. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh, gross. You see this?
I'm not seeing anything.
She was dog feces. They were feeding her dog feces and forced
Yes,
her
they
to eat
were.
it.
Yes, there
I
were.
remember reading that, and it's just like,
Well, it says Daniel Bixler.
yeah, it's not showing up on YouTube, but it is showing up on my screen, the pictures that you're putting up, and it's oh, dear Lord.
So,
It's not showing up on YouTube.
No, it wasn't.
well, so Sherry's cousin Dan.
Well, there is a bit of a delay, so I might have missed it.
So, while all this is going on with Vera, she's just, basically getting kind of shoved out. Danny Bixler and his girlfriend Nicole Peters came to save the family. Now, Danny had just gotten out of jail, but he
Prison.
Huh?
Prison. Big difference between jail and prison.
Okay, I'm sorry. Prison.
Marsh Mars. He was locked up.
But he had another warrant out. So he was kind
Yeah.
of looking for a place to hide. And, why not go somewhere where ain't no one going to look for you if you don't want to go to a house that stinks and smells and, I don't know. But, two more people to terrorize Vera.
I gotta figure out why my camera keeps shutting off.
I don't know.
Me neither. You're still on YouTube, so
But yeah, so they apparently enjoyed torturing Vera.
yeah, they got pleasure out of it.
Yeah.
And the things they did to that girl, the beating, force feeding her foulness, and
Wasn't there one of the testimonies that said that they beat her and then two of them had sex in front of her
yes,
and then they beat her again?
I believe so. Yes.
Well, the week of March 20th, Sherry began to make jokes about killing Vera. And I guess she talked about drugging her with pills. Another one of the family members said, well, let's just get her high. And then just kind of let her walk on the railroad tracks at night. And then she would just pass out. And then the train would hit her. And then someone else said, oh, let's cut her up and then put her on the tracks.
Good God.
And while they're talking about this, Vera's sitting in the same exact room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the world? Like, this poor girl, either she must not have heard them or she was just so beaten down by these people.
That's what I think.
They won't do this to me. They won't do it. Could have been
Yeah.
some denial.
But you also have to consider how much abuse that she had been taking, mental and physical and everything, and more than likely sexual. And it's just,
But at
The
the same
constant-
time, at the time of the murders, she really wasn't even dating the baby daddy anymore. He
Well,
was
no.
dating somebody else.
Well, right. Gina wanted to date Zach. That's why she told on Vera about the
Kit Kat bar.
Kat bar.
Yeah.
And on March 20th, Sherry told Zach that Vera was responsible for Punky's death, which wasn't true.
Class act.
And
Yeah,
so,
really.
Yeah, so that made Zach and Danny, they were angry that Vera did this. And so, of course, that makes them angry and want to, get revenge for Punky's death. And then on March 24th, Sherry instigated a beating and sexual assault on Vera with a toothbrush.
Ew, dear God.
Yeah, it's bad. So the next day, she could barely walk. She was starved. She was beaten. And to make matters worse, Danny and Nicole stabbed her in the leg in the bathroom. So, and then when she wanted food, they gave her some dog feces. This is bad
Yeah.
stuff. So, then on March 26th, it continues. She's getting stabbed. They're just trying to kill her little bit by little bit.
Yeah, they're just cutting her up. Literally cutting her up and, wearing her down. And I'm sure
Not
there's
only
people
physically, but mentally, too.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Mentally,
what I'm
that really had to be a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there probably was a point in Vera Jo's life staying there before the actual murder that she probably was like, you know what? If she probably had the in the back of her head, like, if I die, at least I won't suffer anymore. Because you can only a person can only put up with so much.
Right.
Well, before her murder, though, the cops did come out and they did question Vera.
Several
And she
times.
she denied it the whole entire time. No,
And the
they
thing-
didn't hit me. They didn't abuse me.
Yep. But the thing is, every time the cops came out, Sherry would be right behind Vera Jo. And as soon as they'd ask her a question that had to do with any kind of abuse or anything, Vera Jo would look over at Sherry, and Sherry just gave her that look like, go ahead, tell on me, because that baby will be gone. And
Right.
Vera Jo would say, oh no, everything's fine and dandy, because she didn't want her child to get hurt. And
Right.
she probably knew that if she didn't lie for Sherry and them deviant kids of hers and their girlfriends or what have you,
Yeah.
she knew eventually they were going to do something. I have in my head, in my heart, I believe that she knew eventually that it was going to end bad.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, she knew. I mean, you know, so the
Because
night. Oh, go ahead.
a child between 8 and 12 has the mental and psychological capacity to realize when things are getting bad, and they can, they're people too. They're people too, mentally. Even if you're an adult and if you're mentally a child, you have that capacity in your brain to realize this is it.
Yeah.
And she probably was beaten down physically, mentally, every way, until the only thing she could think of was, I'm just tired.
Yeah. So that night, Zach, Danny, and Nicole made Vera Jo take a walk with them. She didn't want to. She could probably barely walk, but she didn't have a choice. And she walked out of the house and said, "Good night, sugar babe." So she's still being nice to her even after. That's what kills me. Like, I wouldn't want to say nothing to nobody if they were treating me like that.
Heck no!
But yeah, she said, "Good night, sugar babe," and they went to the railroad tracks and they kept stabbing her with a knife. And they had stabbed her so many times, the knife became dull.
Yep.
And they made her take her clothes off. They kept stabbing her. And when she was unable to move, they had her lie down sideways on the tracks, and they just left her there. And then they
Didn't
put
they
the
actually
knife
try
in
to
her leg.
Didn't they actually try to decapitate her before they had laid her on the tracks?
I
But the
don't
knife was too
know.
dull.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, they had many different stories. I even watched the interrogations at some point. You can go
Those are
on.
all messed up.
Yeah. And
Oh,
they all had different stories. So,
Yeah.
that's kind of what they've been able to determine what happened, but no one really knows for sure exactly what happened because the stories were different, but the outcome was the same. Um,
And they
yeah, so
said that the path that they actually took, I think there was a shorter one, but the path that they took was so there was no cameras or no
yeah.
one would see them.
There was no cameras. There was no way for anybody to see them. But they took a shorter route home because they didn't care.
right.
Yeah.
At that point, she was dead. They thought the train was going to do the work, finish the job and everything. So him and that gal took the short route home. They came back and everything's all good, according to them.
But thankfully, like, I mean, when the train came, the train couldn't stop in time. But the conductor did see something on the tracks.
I thought,
And he stopped.
wait, I was going to say, I thought he stopped before it actually hit her.
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
But
it
he
takes a
did.
lot for a train to stop.
Right. And he thought it was a deer, but then when he looked, he was really shocked. The space
Yeah, if you
between the
listen,
body and the bottom of the train was 6 inches.
yeah, it was super small. And if you listen to the calls to the police that the conductor makes, it's like, we got a situation out here. And I mean, even the 911 operator did not believe him. And he's like, look, there's a body on the tracks. You need to come see it. It's bad. And they finally, sent an officer out, and just this whole case, it breaks my heart so much because this girl had no chance. Everybody, that her family failed her. She was abused by Sherry's family. The system failed her.
Oh, definitely.
There were so many, she fell through so many cracks. She had no chance. And it's just like,
And, like,
it's sickening.
when the police did question the Brooks family, Sherry tried to blame the murder on Vera's boyfriend.
Black boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but
Well,
then,
it was my kids. It was some weirdo. You know, whatever, dude.
yeah. But then they found Nicole's bloody shirt, a belt, and even a lock of Vera's hair. So, Danny and Nicole confessed. They told them Sherry had given Vera drugs and talked them into killing her. So they took plea deals. Danny got 40 years to life for murder, and Nicole received 23 years for conspiracy. Which I don't get. She should have gotten as much as Danny got, in my opinion.
She should have gotten life too. I honestly, I used to feel like I was against the death penalty. The older I get, the more I learn about how dark and disturbing this world is. I'm like, you know
Most
what?
likely they took.
Not that bad.
She took a plea deal, though. I guarantee you. Most likely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, they both did. Zach was charged with obstruction of justice and was sentenced to 4 years. Michael was charged with obstruction of justice, served 30 days in jail with 5 years probation. Shannon was charged with obstruction of justice. She took a deal in exchange for cooperation. She received probation. Garth was charged with obstruction of justice and given a fine. And Chucky was charged with obstruction of justice. That was one of her sons. During the time of sentencing, he was already serving time in the juvenile detention facility for truancy. Does that surprise anybody?
No.
The judge sentenced him to a rehab program in a juvenile institution out of state with the stipulation that if he did not complete the program, they would hold him till his 21st birthday. So he did complete it and was released just before his 18th birthday.
And if he had any kind of sense at all, he'd have stayed away from that toxic Sherry.
Yeah.
Sugar babe.
And Kevin Brooks Sr., the dad, wasn't charged in Vera's murder. And I kind of wonder, I didn't see much about him. So I'm like,
It's like he did. Where was he in all this mess? Yeah. I mean, he had to be around there because he was around all the kids. He was there all the time. But it was like, who was he, Casper, when all this was going
Or
on?
was he just sitting there by the side? I mean, Sherry is a controlling force. Maybe she controlled him just as much as she controlled everybody else. That's the only thing I could think of. Is that. And Sherry was not charged in connection with Vera
At all.
At all.
She got.
And they all testified that she said she was the one that told them to do it.
And she got 6 months for what, possession?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's like a slap on the wrist. Way to go.
But then I think she got another charge. And she ended up going to jail. The only good thing that happened out of all this is Willa Dean got out of that house and was adopted by a family.
And as far I read somewhere too, like it was like a protective custody type deal too.
Oh
yeah.
I'm sure they searched her name. She'll never know if parents don't want to But the one thing that was really made me sad
was the note.
And I'll read it because the day after her murder, they found her clothes, and inside the pocket she had a favorite purple hoodie, and it had a note that said, "I love you, Willa Dean. You were a good little baby girl to us. I am glad to be your mommy, and I'm glad that I had you on November 4th at 4:16 a.m. 6 pounds, 2 ounces, 19 inches long. Mommy loves you."
That to me knew she was gonna die.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet pea. Good girl.
And they gave that note to Willa Dean's adopted family to give her when they feel it's right. Which, that just the whole thing.
And there's something else that really irks me about this case. I mean, the whole thing obviously like messes with me, but I watched the documentary that you sent me, Susan, and seeing her mother and them. I mean, Vera Jo's mother after they buried her and stuff, and I'm like, where were you when all this was going down? I know she ran off and everything. What if you were, as a parent, would you not like cross heaven and earth to find your kid, even if they were an adult, if they ran away, if they had like intellectual disability, mental disability, whatever? If you knew that they could be put in peril, would you not move heaven and earth to find that kid?
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know, you know, and I just wanted to say, I don't know why you're mourning now, because you obviously didn't care about her when she was, 11 and took off. I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at the situation.
No,
I just
no,
want
you're
you to
fine.
know, because I'm just like, "Ugh."
But, and I can speak on experience. Did she present all the evidence to her mom, or did she lie to her mom about everything that was going on?
I think she lied. Are you talking about Vera Jo?
Yes.
I think Vera Jo lied to everybody about what was going on because she didn't want to get more. I mean, she was already getting so much abuse and grief from Sherry and her family, but she probably was afraid of getting even more or worse than what she was already getting, if that was even possible. But it just made me ill to a point of irritation and grief to see these people, oh, it's so sad and everything and blah, blah, blah. So many people dropped the ball for this girl.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now that she's gone, she went through so much and everyone is acting like, oh, we cared about her so much. If you cared, why didn't you fight harder?
Yeah.
This was a developmentally disabled girl, pardon me. And, I cannot.
And there's still,
fathom.
to me, there's still no justice to the case.
There's not at all.
Because the one person that should have went to prison got slapped on the wrist.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I mean,
Everybody,
these people testified and said, look, she told us to do this. And they didn't charge her.
and it's like I said, everybody, the state dropped the ball, her family dropped the ball, everybody dropped the ball. And it's
sickening.
Well, that's where, do laws need to be changed? I mean,
and I know there's people, that probably say something like, well, we don't need the government coming in and, looking over our shoulder. Really? Because there's so many instances of cases, not as severe as Vera Jo's, but kids getting abused in homes.
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
And I know that CPS and CYS and all these, these children's programs, services and everything, governmental programs for kids that are in the system, like I said, overworked, underpaid people. They have so many cases. They only have so many, like caseworkers and stuff. They can only do so much. But there needs to be more support in the system, not just like governmental, community support. There has to be. Everyone talks about it takes a village. Well, where's the village? Where's the village? I keep hearing about. Everyone, talked about, oh, it takes a village to raise a child. Really? Then stand up and be the village for these kids.
Well,
Yep.
and not only that, especially now, but nowadays with social media, electronics, parents are turning to devices to babysit their kids and have their kids learn instead of learning from them. And
Yep.
that doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
And now you have.
I mean, if you could letting your 4 to 6 year old sit on a TV, on a tablet or a phone, or putting on YouTube on the TV so they can watch, whatever, and let them, learn that way. Engage with your kids.
Yep.
You have these children. Be a parent. It is. I know it's there's a lot of families that where both parents are working because they have to because they need both incomes and everything. But you're dropping the ball with these kids. I was a latchkey kid. I remember that. But I'll tell you what, my mom would have, like I said, would have lost her head if I'd even tried to do something like that. If I went to somebody's house that she didn't know or didn't really like, She'd have like grabbed me by the ear and said, no. But everybody dropped the ball for Vera Jo. Her family, the system, everybody. And she
I mean,
was looking for support. She was looking for family. She was looking for love. She was looking for, looking for shelter. And she didn't get anything but thrown to the gutters.
I mean, and obviously her own parents, because if they had been any good, they would have gotten that baby.
100%.
They didn't. There's a reason why. I mean, we obviously won't say why, but you can read between the lines.
Yep.
And everyone, and I've heard people say, "Oh, you shouldn't judge and everything." You know what? I'm 100% judging, because this is just another case to me of people, system, everybody dropping the ball. Thank God, I know her name's not Willadine anymore, but she got adopted by another family, and it's probably a closed adoption. Thank goodness.
Yep.
Because she doesn't need to be anywhere near them. And this is another thing that drove me crazy. When the baby daddy originally went to jail, that Sherry tried to get custody of Willadine. Mm-hmm. And finally, somebody
let me ask you this question. You're the foster parents. Did you actually tell the child what happened?
Not till they're... Well, here's the thing. They're going to know that they're adopted.
She was only 3 years old.
She's still going to know she's adopted, trust me. And here's the thing. Just because... I mean, it depends. This child could come out normal, no issues, but guess what? We talk about trauma. Mm-hmm. Adoption is trauma.
For real.
I'm not saying that adoption can't be good, it can't be successful, but it's still a trauma.
You're being taken away from the family that you know.
Away from your mother, yeah. And regardless, she's what, two and a half? She's two and a half. She may not have actual memories, like, that she's able to verbalize, but she'll have core memories that her body could potentially remember.
I saw a YouTube video not too long ago, like a couple days ago, that talked about core memories and how the body responds to trauma. And there's been a lot of people that have come out and said that, they'll watch a movie or see something online and they have like a visceral response to it. And they're like, why am I responding? Why am I reacting like this? And it's like you said, Susan, it's a core response.
Yeah.
Trauma. They might not remember it mentally, but the body says, not again, please, no.
So, I mean, she's going to know that she's adopted. I mean, unless the parents are able to keep it from her. But I still say that, and that's a hard decision to make. But if the child has questions when the time is right, you don't want to keep it from them. Because that's what I was going to say. If the imagination...
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you don't want to tell the child when she's like 10, oh, by the way, here's a a letter from your dead mom, and then especially with social media, she could look it up. I mean, that would be awful. But I mean, I think with therapy, and I think that's where you said,
in a safe environment, that's, she could, her family could, bring it up to her, where in an atmosphere where she feels safe and she's protected. And, as she gets older, to certain things that she will be able to understand.
Yeah.
If the girl is well adjusted and she doesn't want to know, then, then don't tell her. But usually that's not how it happens. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
I pray that
the crazy thing is, there are these DNA tests now out, like 23andMe and everything. Hashtag not sponsored. And they, kids are getting these things now in school, and, they're going to, I did this test, and what's the deal?
Yeah. So it's better not to keep it from her if she, she has questions. That's just my opinion.
But it's like you said, in an environment like probably with a therapist where, it can be a safe space and everything. I mean, I just hope.
Even if you give it to her little doses,
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that's
Fit
the
it in a
case.
way as she gets older to where, the little bits she can understand that's not going to like mess her up. And then when she gets to a certain age and, she has more detailed questions and wants more information, if she can handle it with a therapist, that'd be the ideal thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's about it for this case. It was a pretty awful case to research. Not a very sad case, but I'm glad that we were able to cover it, and hopefully things change and something like this doesn't
Yeah.
happen again. But
Yep.
I just want to tell you all thanks for watching. If you like what you see, make sure you hit the like button. And if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified when we go live, and see what case we do next. We don't even know what case we're going to do next. So we will see you.
Yeah, we do.
We
You want
do?
me to? Yeah, you want me to drop it?
Okay.
Here's the clue. Watch the movie Alpha Dog.
Oh,
We're
that's
gonna bring you
right.
the
I
true
forgot.
story, based on a true story. Although the names were changed, we're gonna give you the real names.
Okay. All right. Thank you
Small
all
hint,
for coming.
another one messed up. Trust me.
Yeah.
Another messed up one. But I mean, we're talking true crime. What's not messed up? Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you in the next one.